Back in chapter 1 for our second video, here we're looking at NBA scoring averages. The table presents the average points scored per game for the 30 NBA teams in 2012-2013 regular season. So we have a list of all of our teams and the average points that they scored per game. First, it asks us to create a dot plot of the data, and then it asks us to describe the distribution of points per game for the 30 NBA teams during the 2012-2013 season. So first we're going to start off by plotting that data using a dot plot. Remember, the dot plot requires a number line, so we're going to start off by figuring out that number line. To do this, because we have some with decimals and others without, it'd be too hard to create a dot plot that contains all those decimals, so we're just going to round these. This is going to become 97. Same here. That would become 93, and so on. You would go through and round them. The next thing we want to do is figure out what's going to be the minimum value on our number line and what's going to be the top value on our number line. If you look through all the data, you're going to find 93.2 is the least amount of points scored, so the Bulls must not have done well that season. And then the highest was with the Nuggets at 106.1, scoring the most average points per game. So then after that, we're going to go ahead and start our dot plot. We have a horizontal axis. We're always going to make sure that we label our axes. So this was average points per game. Then we have to put a scale on our dot plot. So we said 93 was the lowest. I'm going to go ahead and go by ones. And I'm going to mark that every other so it helps me just to keep track of where I'm at. Right, now that I have all of that set up, it's just a matter of plotting those points. So 98.0 is going to become a dot right here at 98. 97, I'll have a dot, and I'm going to try to line these up as much as possible and keep my dots the same size. That's what really gives you the visual effect that you want here. So 97 again, 93, and just keep going until you've gotten all of those points. Now here's one of the reasons why you only want to do a dot plot if you have a smaller set of values, because it is a little time consuming. If you've got a much larger set, then you're going to go ahead and use your calculator and do something more like a histogram. Alright, now that we've got all of our points on here, we're going to go ahead and move on. Describe the distribution of points per game for the 30 NBA teams during the 2012-2013 season. To do this, we're going to use SOCs, which means we're going to describe our shape, our outliers, our center, and our spread. I'm going to get all of that from what I'm looking at here and then just pull in the things I know from there. So to describe my shape, seeing this, there's not a whole lot that deciphers one from the next. It looks almost uniform, maybe slightly skewed. We might be being pulled this way a little bit, which would make it skewed right because I would have my tail off here to the right. So I'm going to say that So there appears to be a majority of values spread uniformly, though possibly slightly skewed right. And from there, we're going to go on and talk about our outliers. If we look at this, there doesn't appear to be any outliers, so that's what we're going to say. And here, notice I put some context into that. We always are referring to a situation, something that really actually happened. So let's talk about it as if we are talking to somebody about that event. And then we need our center and spread. Because we're looking at this dot plot, I would take my center and spread to be the median because I can eyeball that fairly quickly looking at this, and I would use the range. And again, this is because of the data that I'm looking at. The median and the range makes sense for this type of data that is uniform, although maybe slightly skewed, and for the fact that I made a dot plot out of it. Also, just saying that there appears to be no outliers makes sense for this data. Later on, we're going to have a test for outliers, and if you had something more like a histogram or even a box plot, you might want to actually use the test for the outliers. So it just depends on what situation you're in, how you go about giving these stocks your description of the distribution. So to find my median, I would find the middle value. Because we know that there's 30 teams, I'm going to count in 15 dots and see where that 15th dot would land. Now, it's an even number, so the median is going to be between the 15th and the 16th. So I would have to take the average of the 15th and the 16th dot. And if I count end, I'm going to find that it's between 97 and 98. So there is a median of 97.5 because that's the average value I took from 97 to 98. And notice I specified median and didn't simply say center because center can be multiple measures, so explain which measure it is that you actually used. And then finally for the spread, if I use the range is taking the minimum value and the maximum value, I'm going to take their difference. So I would have 106 minus 93, which gives me a range of 13. And again, I'm just going to put some context in there to say 13 points per game. Be specific, communicate what you're thinking. Good luck.